My name is Dr. Christine Dullahan, and I'm an energy psychology practitioner, a life purpose coach, and I'm also an intuitive. And today's topic for this video is spiritual bypassing. I mentioned this in the last video, last weekend that I recorded, which was about spiritual narcissism. That those are both topics that are really relevant in the psycho-spiritual world and in the way that religion and spirituality are evolving through this, higher consciousness movement that we're going through on planet Earth, all of us right now. So I think it's a really important topic. Now, when I woke up this morning and I was doing my own sort of connection with higher source, which I call God. And I meditated and I prayed and I went into that transpersonal space where the magic happens and you get messages and all of that good stuff. I was sort of like seeking guidance there because I've been feeling sort of low and down, and not quite myself in the recent couple of days. I've been sick. I've been having migraines, certainly due to the raising of consciousness that's currently happening. Mother Gaia is raising her vibrations. There's a solar eclipse happening, all of that good stuff I'm certainly feeling. But it wasn't just that. I had a really rough week last week and, some anger outbursts there and just not feeling quite like myself. And so I was kind of going into my guidance and I was like, well, I know I was wanting to do this video about spiritual bypassing, but how can I make a video like that when I feel as low as I feel right now? And the answer I received was an answer you can only get when you connect with your higher consciousness and you step out of your humanness, which was, well, share your own experience. So I'm going to disrupt the YouTube space a little bit with all the perfect videos. If you have watched my videos, they're far from perfect, right? You see me click on and click off partially because I just don't know how to edit videos and I'm not very interested in learning it. So if you're a video editor or somebody who does these things and you want to collaborate with me, by all means, please reach out to me. But, not just that, I want to not come off as somebody who has all the answers. Sure, I've studied this stuff for a couple decades. I have a PhD in all of this, multiple certifications and all that. And I'm saying this not to brag, but to say, I've studied this stuff for a while. I know what I'm talking about here. But at the same time, I'm also still a human being, right? And I think it was the guidance I got today was really that it's important to sort of step out in vulnerability and authenticity, because if I do that, then I give all of you a permission to show up in your circles and on your channels and however you are doing your work in the world as well. Because I think that, as we're shifting consciousness on planet Earth, the strength that is vulnerability and the strength that is authenticity and the strength that is recognizing emotions, especially heart emotions, is something that's going to really reintegrate and bring us all into more balance, which is that divine feminine strength, right? Of being compassionate and nurturing with yourself, but also seeing a strength and vulnerability and not a weakness. So with that said, I am inspired to share my own journey in this and also my own insights into how I, even though I've been on this path for quite a while, still fall into the trap of spiritual bypassing. But before I do that, I want to just kind of briefly define spiritual bypassing. And again, this is also a topic in the book that I recommended last week, which is by John Welwood, and it's called Toward a Psychology of Awakening. I will put that link into the description of this video as well, so that you can, get yourself a copy if this is of interest to you. But so in brief, spiritual bypassing is when somebody is on the spiritual path and believes that that is sort of going to solve all of their problems, right? And we're not having any hard emotions anymore. We're not contending with any dark emotions anymore. What do you mean I'm feeling sadness? I'm not feeling sadness. Maybe I'll feel a little sad, but then I'm just going to meditate it away, right? And a lot of time this happens when people are sort of in, on the path a little earlier on in the path, but it can still happen to people that are a little later on in their path or have been on this path for quite a while. And I've noticed it in myself recently. Um, Often a little earlier on, the way that we medicate or try to push down emotions and feelings that are undesirable within society, because for some reason we are thinking that we always need to look beautiful and always need to be happy and always need to be fulfilled. And how do I get to the fulfillment and the bliss and the happiness that I see in others perceived, which is, I can tell you, just an image, because we're all going through our human things. Um, you know, uh, it's kind of like, how do I get to that space? But that's really honestly spiritual bypassing, right? When we think that we're on the spiritual path and now we should be good, right? It's I've had some people come to me and be like, I want to be in the place that you're in, and I'm thinking, oh, hold on, wait a minute, what place that I'm in? Because I still feel a lot of hard things. I still am in the mess that is life. The only difference is that now I have tools that serve me, and that help me be compassionate with myself, and that help me breathe through it, and that help me make the hardship that is life at times a little bit easier. But I still, just as anybody on planet Earth, going through hard stuff. Just because it might seem like that, in videos I make or whatever, doesn't mean that that's what my life is like. It's not. And I think that's important to say in these videos, because whether you follow me or other people, we all have our human stuff still going on. Okay. And if somebody claims they don't, they're a fake. It's a red flag, and please don't continue following them, because they're just absolutely lying to themselves and you, is my own opinion. But with that said, so spiritual bypassing is really when we are, we're on the path and we think we can just sort of meditate and yoga and energy heal everything away, and we shouldn't be feeling any of that anymore. We should only be in this bliss space of, whatever. And then when we feel hard emotions, we tend to just kind of push it in the corner and say, well, I'm just going to meditate it away. Or what do you mean I don't feel grief anymore? I, have XYZ. Um, and that's, just kind of an extreme overdrawn picture of it. But, most people on the spiritual path do this to some extent. Okay. Um, the other way that most people on planet Earth do it, which is just regular bypassing, is when we jump into unhealthy behaviors and habits, like drinking, smoking, taking drugs, sex, food addictions, whatever it is, whatever you can have an addiction to. That is sort of like the other side of bypassing. And spiritual bypassing really refers to the aspects of spirituality, or the tools that we bring in, and then using that to medicate hard feelings away. Okay. And I've experienced some of that in recent weeks and months, due to the death of my father. My father has been dead for 6 months on Friday, and I realized that the reason why my week was so hard was because of that. Even though my mom had to remind me that it had been six weeks on Friday, and 6 weeks, 6 months. And if you've ever lost a parent, it's the most traumatic thing in my own experience that I have ever gone through. Somebody who has not lost a parent yet, and unfortunately, we all have to go through it at some point. Does not know what it's like. It's really hard. It's not something that you pick yourself up from a couple months after, or weeks, or even years. So I think it's always going to stay with you. And I've gotten a lot of responses from people when my dad passed, and even up to now, which is sort of like, well, what do you mean? Like, you do mediumistic work, you're an intuitive, you've had a pre-life experience, you know where he might be, you know what's happening on the other side. you do energy healing. Can't you just do energy healing on yourself, right? Like, why? What do you mean you're experiencing grief? And I can only tell you that, yes, these are all great tools, but I still am experiencing grief. In fact, I believe that the tools we get through spirituality and through higher consciousness, the path of higher consciousness, energy healing, what have you, holistics in general, intuitive work, mediumistic, they can be very healing, right? It can be really comforting to know that your loved one is on the other side and they're still there and they're speaking through a medium and saying things that this medium could have not possibly have known ever. That can be very comforting, and it can certainly be a tool to help you heal the grief and come to a place of acceptance, but you're still going to feel the hard emotions, right? And I think that spirituality is really a way of really going into the hard emotions that we usually don't want to feel because they're dark and they're hard, and who wants to be unhappy or have to cry or have to feel heartache or whatever? Nobody wants to do that, right? That's why we tend to push it away, and that's why we try to keep meditate it away. It's also in part the Western society, which is where I'm at, which tells you always have to be happy and beautiful and whatnot, right? So, oh my God, now I'm going through a hard time, and I'm not living up to that ideal of that happy society. So, but with that said, instead of using spirituality to sort of bypass and neatly pack those emotions in a box, we can really use the emotions, the dark emotions, as our greatest teachers, as our gurus, right? A guru, as far as I'm aware, the translation of it really is somebody, a teacher that brings you from darkness into light. And they don't come only in a personified physical body like this lovely Amma here. um, they come in all kinds of forms and shapes and sizes, right? I have several gurus who are not Amma or Yogananda, whoever I follow, and have been in a physical shell, or are even globally known. And some of my gurus really are my emotions, and specifically the dark emotions. And that kind of comes also to that answers a question I received from several people, which is like, well, if planet Earth is so hard, why do we even incarnate here? What's the point? Can't we just realize that we're God on the other side? And the simple answer is no, we cannot. Because the only way we can come into wholeness and into the full human that we are, right? Or the fullness, the wholeness of what we are, which is that, meaning higher consciousness, God, or whatever you want, right? We were created in the image of God. That's what the Bible says, and that's what all the spiritual texts say in different words, but it's all the same, right? All spiritual texts say it in the same way. Um, and coming into that and realizing that the only way we can do that, and evolving our consciousness in that direction and shifting into that love, that unconditional love, is through big hard emotions like grief, like depression, like anxiety, like sadness, like anger, like rage. Those emotions we don't like to feel, right? But they're not bad. Which is something that society tends to want to put value on it. That's bad, and this is good, and this is what I want, and I don't want to deal with the bad stuff, so I'm just going to put it away and pack it in a box, right? Instead, it's more like what Rumi wrote in his poem, which I will post down below. But basically, the sadness and all of these emotions that visit your house, your temple, right, every day, are here to clear you out, to really look at your shadow, and then to clear you out so that you can bring more light and love in your body and into your consciousness, and so that you can start living in that peace of God, in that peaceful state. So they're really teachers, and they're here not to be controlled, but they're here to be surrendered to, and to really say, okay, grief is in my house right now. I'm grieving my dad, and it's awful. It's awful. And it's ever changing, and it's lurking. And, this morning I thought I was fine. and I was taking care of some dogs, and I step in my car and I start bawling and crying because I'm so sad that I will never have a piece of cherry pie with my dad ever again, not in the physical body. Is he here? Do I feel him? Absolutely. But he's still not in the physical body anymore. And that makes me really sad. And contending with that and kind of seeing it as that, like what does love want me to know, and how grief can move me and transform me more towards love and away from fear, right? And you can fill in the blank. You don't have to fill, it doesn't have to be grief. It can be feeling low or depression. It could be, feeling sadness. It could be feeling anger. And hint there, they all layer in one another. Anger usually masks sadness. Okay, when you're angry, really underneath it is a lot of sadness. But all these emotions want to be felt so that they can be peeled like an onion, so you can come to the truth of who you really are, which is unconditional love. Okay, so that said, I think it's really important to sort of understand the concept of spiritual bypassing, especially if you consider yourself to be on the spiritual path, and then to also kind of become conscious of it when it happens, okay? Because it happened to me, right? I was fine the last couple of weeks or so, I thought, and I really wasn't, right? And it started coming out in extreme anger rages that I had, where I was like, wait a minute, I'm afraid of myself. Why am I so angry, right? And then when I was starting to talk about it, it really kind of fell away in this immense, like sadness around this loss that was very different from what I've experienced it in previous months came out. So it felt really aligned and good for me today to also share my own experience in the spiritual bypassing, and to not just kind of make it cerebral and book knowledge and just kind of throwing that topic and that word out there to hopefully have more conversation and discussion around it, but to really just put it into my own context and how I see it and how I learn from it in my own spiritual evolution towards higher consciousness. I will be talking more about why we come on planet Earth and dark emotions and all of this. These videos build on one another, right? But with that said, I feel pretty complete about the video that I'm doing today. If you're somebody who has been on the spiritual path for a while, I think you can just use whatever works to work with your dark emotions, right? The shadow, Jung called it the shadow. In fact, the shadow is actually your greatest light. So when you start looking into the shadow and the things that trigger you and the things that are really scary to look at, when you start looking your demons in the eye, right? That's where your greatest strength and your greatest power and love and light are hidden behind that. And some people are strong enough and have enough, know-how and knowledge to kind of work through that themselves. But some people will and might need a guide in the form of a therapist, an energy healer, a general healer, coach, what have you, combination of all of those things, right? So if you feel inspired to work with somebody, I do highly encourage that, because it's just a really good way to go about it in a balanced way, right? Because when we start trying to experiment with it by ourselves, it can get out of balance, and then that's really not the point and purpose and all of what we're doing here. So with that said, if this video served you, please subscribe to my channel and please share, so more people can learn about the topic and learn about the importance of really courageously looking at our darker emotions and using our spiritual tools to do so. And if you're interested in collaborating with me, reach out to me as well. Whether it is on coursework, interviews, whatever it is, please reach out to me. I'm always up for collaborations. I'm always up for discussions. if you have topics or questions, right? If a question pops up and is like, well, what about that? If I was sitting in front of her right now, I would ask her this. What about that? Please reach out so we can create like an interactive channel here. Okay, this isn't just about me looking pretty and staring into the camera. This is about us and our relationship and us creating a community and a movement here. Okay, so let's create that. Okay, I want to hear from you. Give me your feedback. Send me your topics. And so we can, really get to a place where, we really get you to understanding of higher consciousness. So you can share it with your circles, and we can sort of burst that bubble and get the 1% so that we can move into the new age and live a happier life as a society, right? And so you can reach out to me. My website is Dr. Christine. No, my website is It's Dr. Christine. Oh my God, It's Dr. Christine, just like my channel .com. Or you can also just write me an email. It's drchristine@gmail.com. If you want to work with me, you can do that too. Like I said, I do energy healing, intuitive work, and coaching, and I put that together in a very unique sort of healing modality that you can't find anywhere else. So if that's something of interest, you can reach out to me and also look up my website to see that. And other than that, I post these videos once a week. So with that, I will leave you to a beautiful week. I hope the solar eclipse goes well for you. I hope a lot of healing happens for you around that. And I will see you next week. Take care.